Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this tutorial we are working again the Bring Me the Sun Shrug, which is a brand new tutorial that you requested, and I hope that this time we'll have all the information that you need. Now on the screen you can see the sketch of this cardigan. So basically it's the usual shrug, only that on this specific design we will start to work first the circle, and then we will work the corners to transform the circle into a square, and then we will extend the sides to make it a rectangle, which is the shape that we will need to give it the that shrug shape. So basically this is the main structure of the shrug. The circle will give you basically the length and also the width, because beginning with that, basically I started to just grade the pattern considering the circle measurements. We are working in this tutorial a size SM. The main circle will have approximate 76 centimeters, and from cuff to cuff, so including the part 3 of the shrug, it will have 122 centimeters. You will want to start with a gauge for this, and I had, after working the first 3 rounds of the circle, I had 10 centimeters in diameter. So if you have the same gauge, you can start over and following the same number of rows as I did. If not, it all depends on the circle, and you can add more rows, more rounds, to get to the desired measurement. So basically when I got to the 76 centimeters, I realized that I need a cuff to cuff, so you have to measure a cuff to cuff to see how much width you'll need for your shrug. And of course that with the main circle you don't have to go too far or to work too many rows, because otherwise you'll end up with a longer cardigan. So you can adjust that. When you get to the desired length, you can just stop working on the circle, because then you can extend the front panels of this part 3 over here to get to the exact needed width that you'll need to reach for the cuff to cuff measurements. So let's see what we will use. So I use for this shrug recycled cotton from We Are Knitters. For my size SM, I use approximate 4 balls of yarn. You'll need a 5mm crochet hook and also a 4.5mm crochet hook for the border, and of course scissors and stitch marker or scrap of yarn to just mark the corners after we will finish the circle. So let's get started. We will start with a magic ring, chain 3, and work 11 more double crochet inside the ring. So the first chain 3, it will count as a first double crochet, and in total we will have 12 stitches inside the ring, which will be the stitches of our first round. Now pull the end to close the ring, and we will close the round with a slip stitch into the third chain, and we will start our round 2. Same with 3 chain stitches, and into the same stitch make 1 double crochet, and then continue with 2 double crochet into each of the following stitches. At the end of this round, you should have 24 stitches. And we will close the round with a slip stitch into the third chain. Now we will start a V-stitch pattern, so chain 4 and 1 double crochet into the same stitch. This was the first V, chain 1, skip the next stitch, and into the next one work 1 double crochet, 1 chain, and another double crochet. So this will be the V-stitch that we are working for the stitch pattern that we will use for the entire shrug. So now we will just repeat 1 V-stitch, skip 1, 1 V-stitch. And when I'm saying 1 V-stitch, I mean the 1 double crochet, chain 1, 1 double crochet, and the chain 1 that is made after the V-stitch. We will close the round with a slip stitch into the third chain. Always we will start the round into the 1 chain space of the first V-stitch, and always we will start with chain 4 and a double crochet in the same space. This will be an increasing round, so after making the first V, into the next V we will do an increase. So we will work 2 V-stitches in the same 1 chain space. Then we will go into the next V and we will work 1 single V-stitch. Chain 1, going into the next V-stitch and make an increase. So work 2 V-stitches into the same 1 chain. So at the end of round 3, we had 12 V-stitches, and with each increase round we will add 6 more V-stitches. So at the end of this round we should have 18 V-stitches. And the pattern is to alternate 1 increase round with 1 round without increasing. So now we are just closing the round into the third stitch with a slip stitch, going into the first 1 chain space and start with the first V, which is chain 4 and a double crochet into the same space. So I was saying that the pattern will be 1 increase round and 1 round without increasing. So because the previous one we increased with the 6 V-stitches, now we should work 1 V-stitch into each V-stitch without increasing. So at the end of this round you should have 18 V-stitches, the same number as on the previous one. Okay, now it's time to increase again. So the previous increase round had 1 V-stitch between increases. So this time we should have 2 V-stitches between increases. we will start the round the same. Into the first one chain space, chain 4 and 1 double crochet. Into the next stitch we will work another V-stitch, and into the third one it will be the increase, so 2 V-stitches into the same V-stitch. And now we will repeat the pattern with 2 V-stitches, 1 increase, 2 V-stitches, 1 increase until the end of the round. With this round we will add 6 more V-stitches, so you should have 24. Okay, we will close the round in the same way. And now the next round will be without increasing, and then we will have to have another increasing round in which we should add 1 more V-stitch between increasing. So with each increasing round we will add 1 V-stitch between increases, and we will continue to have in total 25 rounds, counting the first 2 at the beginning as well. And we will split into the 8 sides. We will have 4 corners of 9 V-stitches, then the top and the bottom will have 10 V-stitches, and the sides will have 11 V-stitches. You should divide the total number of the V-stitches that you have on the circle into 8. If you have an even number, then it's fine. If not, it's better to have less stitches on the corners and of course more stitches on the sides. And now we'll start to work the corners, and we will start into the first V-stitch of our corner with chain 4. Then we will go into the next V-stitch and we will work a V-stitch. And we will work from the 9 V-stitches that we have on the corner, we will work 7 V-stitches. The pattern is similar no matter how many V-stitches you have on the corners. The decrease pattern at the beginning and at the end of the round is the same. The only difference is that if you have an even number of V-stitches, then you will end up with 2 V-stitches at the end, not only 1. But I will explain at the end of the corner how to adjust that and to get to 1 V-stitches in the end. In case you need more information about the corners, you can find the crochet chart on my website. The pattern on my website, it's free, and you can find the link into the description below. So now I will work the last V-stitch, and I will finish the round with chain 1 and 1 double crochet into the last V. And this was the first round of our repeat. Now we will chain 3 and turn. We will work 1 double crochet into the first V, so only 1 double crochet, and now then we will continue with 1 V-stitch in each of the following or next 5 V-stitches. So let the last one for the decrease. Your row always has to end in the same way as it started. So I'll work the last V, chain 1, and make 1 double crochet into the last V, and then my chain 3 at the beginning, which will be another double crochet into the chain 4 space over here. You can try to reach the 1 chain, but you can do it into the 4 chain space as well. Now the next round will start exactly the same as the first one, and it will be a repeat. So I will chain 4 and then going into the first V-stitch and work up V-stitch this time. So I will have 5 V-stitches on this row. Okay, so my last V-stitch here. I'm getting out of the camera, but I'm hoping that I will do it better. So this is the last V, and we will finish the row with 1 chain, and into the last double crochet we will do a double crochet. And basically this 1 chain and double crochet was the chain 4 at the beginning. Now chain 3 and repeat row 2, so 1 double crochet into the first V. Then we will continue with the V-stitch into each of the following V-stitches except the last one. So I think we will have only 3 this time. And into the last V-stitch we will work a double crochet and then another double crochet into the last stitch. And now we will repeat again row 1, so chain 4, turn, going into the first V-stitch with a V-stitch, and continue with 1 V-stitch into the next 2, and we will finish the row with 1 chain and 1 double crochet into the last stitch. And now chain 3, 1 double crochet into the first V-stitch, 1 V-stitch, and then 1 double crochet into the last V-stitch, and another double crochet into the last stitch. And I think we will have only 1 more row to go, so chain 4, 1 V-stitch, 1 chain, and 1 double crochet. So basically if you have an even number of V-stitches to start with, this row here will be with 2 V-stitches instead of 1. So you will have to repeat 1 more row, and you will do the V-stitch, the last V-stitch, between the 2 V-stitches that you have on the previous row. So this will be the pattern that we will repeat for the corners. Now I will cut the yarn and continue and repeat the same pattern for the other 3 corners. Don't worry if your square is not perfectly a square. This is not the idea. The idea is to have a shape that it will be closer to a square, so we can transform that into the final rectangle that we will need for the for our pattern. So now my square is done. So what we will do next is to extend the sides. So we are working only on the sides over here. Remember from the first sketch that I showed you, this will be the section 3 of this pattern. And let's just start it. So we will start in the one V-stitch of the corner that we had left, and we will rejoin the yarn over here, chain 4, then into the side rows of our corners we will work in each side row, we will work a V-stitch. Chain 1, then another V-stitch into the next row, then into the next one we will work another V-stitch, and another V-stitch into the next one, and now that we still have one more third row over here, and now that we reach the V-stitches on the sides, we will work one V-stitch into each V-stitch, and of course repeat the same on the other corner to complete this row. And you should finish this row with one chain and one double crochet into the last V, and then chain 4 and turn, and now we will continue to work one V-stitch into each V-stitch until you complete the section 3, which for the size will have 15 rows in total. Or in case you need more rows just to complete the width that you need from the cuff to cuff, then you can just add more or fewer rows if you need. So again, the main circle will give you the length in principle, so you just have to stop when you feel that the circle, the diameter, measure the length, and then of course after finishing the square you just can extend the front panels as much as you need to get to the desired width. I also consider the main circle in my grading, so the main circle will have more rows for different sizes because I wanted to keep the proportions with each size. So this is the main rectangle that we will use to assemble our shrug. So now, as you probably know, we will just fold the corners to just create the sleeves of the shrug. We will do the same into the other side. And now, depending on how wide you want your cuffs to be or the armhole to be, you will let those stitches free to create the hole and just stitch the rest of them. So I just let for the sleeves 5 V-stitches, counting from this corner over here, and then the rest of the V stitches that I had, I just stitch that both sides together. And after we're basically stitching together these pieces, we just have the shape of the shrug. And now we will just work on the finishing. So now we're about to work the border, and for this I will use a smaller crochet hook. It's a 4.5 millimeter or a G crochet hook size, just because I want to work into the chains and to be easier to insert the hook into the chains and not around the chains where I don't have a stitch, just to have a neater look of my border. So I will just start into one chain at the back, the top back of the cardigan. We will rejoin yarn and work one chain and then one single crochet, and then we will continue with one single crochet in all the stitches around. So this is what I was telling you. I don't want to go around or under the chain stitch. I want to be able to insert the hook through. That's why I'm using a smaller crochet hook. Now when we will go on the side rows, because now it's pretty simple, we're just working one single crochet into each stitch. Either it is a double crochet or a chain stitch. But when you're getting on the side rows, it's depending on your on your way of working or tension, because depends on how high are your stitches. So here I have, I think, a chain 4, so I did already one single crochet. Usually on a chain 4 maybe I will do just 3 single crochet, but this time, because I'm working with a smaller crochet hook, I will do exactly 4. So basically I'm working a stitch into each stitch and into a double crochet if you have a double crochet like I have here. So I'm working 1 and 2 stitches, because it was not that taller, but usually you should work into the double crochet side row 3 or 2 stitches, depending on how tall are your stitches on the side. I don't know if it makes sense, but I think it does. So depending on your tension of the stitches, you should make sure that your stitches, your single crochet stitches, are evenly made into the side row. And we will just continue in working one single crochet into each stitch until we complete the round, and we will get into the starting point over here. So I complete the first round, so close the round with a slip stitch into the first single crochet, and now we will just single crochet into each single crochet all around. And depending on how thick or the width of your border, you can work as many rows as you want. I will work in total 5 rows in single crochet, because I want to add 2 more rows, one in V-stitch and one in single crochet after that. So these are my first 4 rows of the border. Sorry, I think I have 5. And now the next round I will work a V-stitch pattern. So start with 4 chains and 1 double crochet into the same stitch, then chain 1, skip the next 3 stitches and go into the next one and work a V-stitch, and repeat all around. Maybe you don't have a multiple of 4 stitches all around as this pattern requires, but you don't have to worry about. We will just adjust this at the end of the round, and we will see that I didn't have a multiple of 4, but it wasn't an issue. So at the end of the round, as I said, I think I have 1, 2, so I have 5 stitches left. So I will skip 3 and make my last V-stitch. And then I will simply join with the 3rd chain, and that was it. So it's not changing too much on the on this border, so you can do the same. And now to finish this, I will just work another round just in single crochet over these V-stitches that I just made. Okay, my main border or edging is done. Now I can fasten off, and going into the sleeve cuff, I will use the same pattern for the cuffs as the other border. You can use the same pattern, or I don't know, work fewer rounds into single crochet in case you want the cuff or this border to not to be that thick. So we will work in rounds, and we should rejoin the yarn on the seam, into the seam. So here, using the same 4.5 millimeter crochet hook, or size 7 or G plus, I will rejoin yarn, chain 1, and then work 1 single crochet. This time on the sleeves, except the first stitches, because maybe you will find it difficult to just insert the hook into the seam. Then it's pretty easy because we only have V stitches, so we should work a single crochet into each V stitch. And we will repeat the same pattern as for the other border. So this is how my shrug looks laid down. You just have to weave in all ends, and of course block it if needed. Usually on cotton a steam blocking is enough. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as well, and this shrug as well, and I will wait you for the next time with another tutorial. Bye bye.